welcome everybody to our first session. My name is Ronald Seytout. I am the current president and chairman of the Georgia Haitian American Chamber of Commerce. I appreciate you all for coming out. And we have a really exciting session this evening. And this is actually our first session this year. And we really are making a big effort to really make sure that we're sharing opportunities, we're letting people know what's happening within the community, and making sure they're aware of things that can benefit not just us individually, but us as a community. And, you know, today we have a special guest, friend of mine, not really a special guest for me, but he is special, but we're friends. And Carl is a long-time friend of the Chamber. He's been involved in the community. And one of the things that I'm excited about is sharing what he has going on, because this is something that we don't always get to see, right? And it's some of this knowledge that we're going to be talking about today is something that's not often talked about within our community. Specifically, when I'm talking about our community, I mean Haitian Americans, sometimes the African American communities. And so we want to make these conversations very, very normal, so we can have more people involved in these areas, and at the same time find the different opportunities, in which Carl is going to share a little bit of that today. Carl, like I mentioned, is a member of the Chamber. Has been in Atlanta for a little while as well. He is a graduate of Georgia Tech, and he got his graduate degrees from there. But at the same time, he's involved within the tech space too, and healthcare space. But I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, because I want to make sure Carl has an opportunity to talk about that. And today is really just a candid conversation about what the opportunities are, the trends, learning about investing in startups, all of these different things, because Carl is in that space. And so I thought it would be very appropriate, as we're growing as the Chamber, that we're having these conversations to bring more people into it and give more knowledge about it. So a couple of housekeeping rules before we get started. The way this webinar is going to go today is simply me and Carl will talk a little bit. I'll ask him some questions. And at the same time, I know you're going to have questions. And I want to make sure that when you have those questions, you don't forget. Put those questions in the chat. And at some moment, we will have a Q&A where you can ask Carl these questions, or Yvette will come on and ask those questions that you have for Carl in regards to whatever topics that we're talking about today. You'll go ahead and put that in the chat, and Yvette will read it out. And so make sure that you do that while you have the question on your mind. We don't want you to forget that. All right. So without further ado, again, welcome to this webinar. We're talking about investing in tech startups, and we're talking about trends within the healthcare industry and tech. So Carl, Dr. Carl Hanna, go ahead and introduce yourself formally for the people so they can become friends with you like we are so far.
All right, thank you, Ronald, and I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate everybody coming on and hearing me speak about healthcare, about health tech, more specifically, and also the startup that I'm a co-founder of, which is Evva Health. So I'll get a chance and opportunity to elaborate a bit more on all of this topic. And Dr. Ronald, I think you gotta stop the Dr. Carl, because I'm gonna have to call you Dr. Ronald too. So let's stop it there. And it's an intimate conversation that we are having, right? So we don't have to we can forget the formalities. But anyway, so a little bit about me. If you're kind of wondering my origin story, I know Ronald mentioned a little bit about it. I was born and raised in Haiti. You can still notice the accent. And I've been in the States for about 25 years. 23 out of those 25 years, the last 23 years, I've been here in Atlanta. So consider myself to be, an Atlantan, I guess. And also, of course, never forget where, my roots of being Haitian as well. I went to, like many Haitians coming to the States, especially the one who came to Miami. I went to a small community college. Was grown, I've grown since then. It's Miami-Dade Community College. I think maybe some of you have gone to it if you were in Miami or born in Miami or a Haitian coming to the state via, through Miami. After that, moved to Georgia in 1999 to pursue my finish my undergrad and continue my graduate studies, master's and PhD in mechanical engineering. After that, I was a little bit, I got tired of spending time in my lab and running simulation, right? And I did and gravitated towards management consulting. Went for 3 years of IT consulting. That took me to South America for about a year in Montevideo, Uruguay, and then came back to the state, did some more work at AT&T, went to Deloitte Consulting, and that's when I started my healthcare, career as a management consultant. And then fast forward 5 years at Deloitte, fast forward PwC, and doing big engagement, working with healthcare provider systems, so hospitals, all across the nation, from small community hospital to large multi-system hospital, from South Florida, Georgia, all the way to Hawaii, crossing the states several times over. And then, a couple of years back, started the journey of Evva Health, me and my other co-founder, Saurabh VS, to really help, redefine the care experience of, folks that are, the families that are caring for a loved one at home. So I'll stop there, and I know, Ron, you probably have more questions for me. So let me hear them.
I do. Before we go into that, Carl, I mean, I know a lot of people. I kind of have an idea, but just to be clear, what exactly is management consulting?
Yeah, so it's like back in 2005, right? I was finishing my PhD. I didn't know what management consulting was, right? I had to ask around, and I had some good friends who told me about, hey, it's about, solving problem, working with organization, working with management within organization, and then figure out, what are the pain points, right? What are the challenges, and help them surmount those challenges. So as a typical example, a health organization will say, hey, we want to grow, right? We want to expand, right? We want to expand to other communities. What should we do, right? How do we need to go about it? Or it could be a reverse situation, which is sometimes unpleasant, is we need to reduce cost, right? We need to increase productivity. So what are the best practices out there, and how do we go about it as an organization?
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. And that's just in case anybody was wondering what it was, because I know at first I didn't know what management consulting was. I had an idea, but I think it's always good to clarify.
And we do fly a lot around the country, so a lot of
well, that's the
miles.
fun part of the job, right?
Yeah, well, it's not that fun.
You get tired after a while.
When you're flying out for work or flying out for pleasure, it's two different things, right? It's
True
like
enough.
Monday morning, trying to fall asleep on Sunday night, always being painful.
Oh
You
man.
gotta wake up early, right, to catch your first flight out. So it's always, it's not that glamorous. But when you're going on vacation, you have the points, hotel points, airlines points. So it's I'm grateful for those.
I hear you. I myself used to travel a lot for work too, so I think I understand now. But I thought it was just me. But so okay, let's jump right into the meat of what everybody's very interested in, right? When it comes to healthcare, when it comes to tech, because you're in both of these fields, and they're combined for you. So what trends do you see? I mean, this is a very big topic, so I'm wondering, in a sense, from your experience and what you're doing, what are the trends that you see in healthcare and in tech?
Yeah, well, it's like you said, it's very complex, it's very broad, right? So we can spend, many webinar to talk about the different sections or different areas within healthcare, right? we can talk about, the healthcare provider, what are they doing, right, to improve the patient experience when you get into the facility, right?
Yeah.
How they're making sure they track, after you leave, and be able to, follow you, through some remote, patient technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
But and also we can talk about the payer side, right? What the insurance are doing, right, to
Mm-hmm.
manage their members. And we can also talk about life sciences and pharma, what pharma is doing in the realm of decentralized clinical trial, right? We can talk about a lot of the different topic, but I wanted to really focus on really us, the consumer, right?
Okay.
And paint, kind of the trends that we're seeing from that perspective, right? Because again, if I talking about system that hospital are doing, you're like, okay, that's fine, but I don't care, right? I
Right.
just to get access to my patient portal. But so let's go and let's dive in, but looking at it from a patient perspective. The pandemic, COVID-19, the pandemic has really accelerated a lot of adoption of technology within
Mm.
healthcare, which is a great thing, right? Telehealth, right? Before 2019 or 2019, it was hard to convince people to take a meeting, over the web, right? Or even do a clinical visit over the web. Work has been done. There were companies there doing. Now by 2021, or even by 2020 and 2021, the usage of telehealth, virtual care had increased by 38 times, right? Not 38%, 38 times, right? So you're gonna see, as we continue and post-pandemic, the consumers are getting used to it, and some of them will still want to have this. And then one thing is not sure yet, right? As we're looking at the future of telehealth, is reimbursement, right? Are the payers or the insurance company going to reimburse, and what we call reimbursement parity? Will they reimburse as much for a visit that's done in person versus one that's done virtually, right? As people now are going back to going to see their doctors in person. So something to watch out, to be on the lookout for. So as a patient, so as a consumer, you want to look out for that. Another one, and I want to talk about four, but the second one is when you think about long-term care or acute care. Families, right, are looking for looking for solution that closer to home, closer to their own environment, right? They
Yeah.
don't want to go for everything. They don't want to go necessarily to a facility to receive the care. And of course, with pandemic, with COVID, we know some of it is possible, right, within the home environment, or even within an assisted living facility, right? You don't have to take that person out of that facility where they are accustomed to go to a healthcare facility, whether it's a hospital or a specialized clinic, right? The third one I'm thinking about, it's really the emergence of technologies, right? Emerging technologies, remote patient monitoring. That's something some of you may be accustomed to. You're getting an app from a provider, and they can track if there's anything going on. You can say, hey, something is wrong. You can ping back the provider and somewhat track what's going on with the patient. So you'll see a lot of more remote patient monitoring solution that's coming. And also, where we are in Eva, right? We're looking at artificial intelligence, machine learning, computer vision, natural language processing algorithm to really help redefine that care experience that we're talking about. And the fourth bullet is it's around money, investment, right? When you think about the venture money that's being pulled into digital health, it's astronomical, right? Back in 2019, it was about 8 billion, right, in terms of investment in companies by venture capital, VCs. By 2021, I think in 2021, it was about 29 billion, right? So 3.5x, 3.5 multiple of that investment, right? So we're going to see more investment within the digital space. And of course, you'll see, players, big tech players, right, that are been trying to come in and disrupt that space. So that's, and that's, I wanted to, I don't want to bore the audience with technicality, but I think as a consumer, you kind of appreciate, some of these trends that you'll probably experience and you continue to experience.
Yeah. I mean, you said a lot there, so I know it has me naturally curious.
Mm-hmm.
With everything that you just mentioned as far as those trends, how is Evva Tech playing in that space? What exactly is Evva Health doing? Because I mean, you mentioned AI, you mentioned a lot. I mentioned a lot of things there in terms of the future and some of the things that we're working on now.
Yeah.
What does that look like for Evva Health?
Yeah, so Evva, right? Evva Health, and we like to think about it, Evva forever, right? Evva wants to be your solution for any family that's caring for now, that's caring for someone with dementia or someone who has memory, no problem, right? So if you have a loved one at home, you are the primary caregiver, right? You are the family member. When I said family caregiver, sometimes people think, oh, it's just someone I'm going to pay to come in and support my loved one. No, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you, the family, the daughter, the son, right? Who's caring for a parent, and use technology. I'll go a bit more details on Eva. Use technology to help redefine that experience, right? So that's and let me I know I said the four trends, but let me be a bit narrow down kind of the specific and kind of create that burning platform on why we're doing what we're doing, right? We are in the space of aging, right? Eva is in the space of aging. So we are very specific when we think about the life journey of a human, right? We're not doing pediatrics, so we're not looking at children. We're not looking at young adults or expecting mothers, right? We're looking at the elderly, right? And so just to give you a statistic to see how fast we're aging, by 1950, and especially focusing on the wealthy world, right? So there is different if you're looking at Africa compared to, of course, the US and the rest and Europe, etc. But let's think about US since we are here, right? And the rest of Britain and Europe, Western Europe, etc. Even the rest of Eastern Europe as well. In 1950, one in 12 folks were 65 and up, right? 1 in 12 was someone with that 65 years or more. By 2050, it's just about 30 years, it's going to be 1 in 4. Right? And we've heard, I mean, you probably bombarded, and your audience probably noticed that the baby boomers are aging, right? So we're creating that sandwich generation of someone caring for their parents, also caring for their kids. It's getting larger, right? In 20 years, most of us will be 65 plus, right? So we're all going to be, and as you're looking at the solution that's currently out, right? And the pandemic clearly showed it to everybody, is the typical method of care, it's not working, right? We see facilities being filled, right, and not being able to address the demand. We see, folks dying in nursing home. We see isolation, right? Folks are in nursing home, but they feel they are alone and depressed, right? So care has to be something more in the community, right? Has to be something closer to home. And that's what, when we think about whatever our mission is, how do we enable you, right, the family and that loved one to really age in dignity, right, age within their community. And of course, for certain situation, you're gonna have to, go to a specific institution because you as a family may not have the resource. Imagine if you're a 90-pound woman and you're caring for your mother or your father, right? That's let's say your father, that's 200 pounds, right? That person may have behavioral issue, right? You may not be able to handle this. So this is where a situation where you'll need obviously, professional help and probably be in an institution. But for a lot of other folks, they can age in their home. But if you don't have the tools, if you don't have the technology, if you don't have the solution that really understands you as a family unit and bring the right support when it's needed and not just bombard you with things, you'll never, your first thing would be like, oh my God, I need to send my loved one to an assisted living facility. And unfortunately, what we see is assisted living facility may not be the first and the right choice for you as a family. It might be too expensive. It is very expensive, right? And sometimes not ideal for your loved one.
Got you. That's a lot, Carl. I mean, you're working on a lot. But you know what? Go ahead. You were about to say something.
Yeah. No, we're working on a lot, right? We're excited about it because, it's like when we talk to families, right? When we talk to families, they're excited about what we're building, right? And so that keeps us, energized, hungry to make an impact. And also from a personal standpoint, I'm also a caregiver for my parents, right?
Right.
And for some of my relatives, right? So I want a solution that can help me help them and better.
Gotcha. I'm being nosy, Carl. I can't help but to look in the background and I notice the logo of Miami-Dade, and I see a plaque back there from Miami-Dade. But it reminded me of a little birdie told me, or maybe I saw him on social media when you were celebrating, but you won a couple of awards forever.
Yes, we did. We have. And actually, I think I guess top of my head here, there's a belt too. That's a competition,
okay.
Like a championship belt.
Yes, I see.
So we won a couple, both one here in Atlanta, startup competition back in August, and was in front of an audience of 400. We won 40% of the vote. We got first place.
Nice.
So thank you. And then back in November, we got invited to pitch in front of the CEO of LG, CEO of North America of LG, right? And the SVP, also the SVP of innovation. And we're one of 12 companies, right? Companies at different stage. And we came out, first prize for the innovation that we're working towards. So it was an innovation prize, and we got first prize. And we got a check too. So that was good too.
Okay, well, that's what I was thinking. So I know everybody's wondering, because we hear about pitch events and pitch competitions. You're thinking, okay, somebody wants some money. So obviously that means you're raising funds, right?
Yes, we are raising fund, right? We're raising fund. We're in a pre-seed raise now, right? And yeah, we're excited about it. I know, and we're gonna talk a bit more, hopefully, about how we're doing it. So I'm not sure if that's your next question.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that, because you're currently you're raising a round right now, right?
That's correct.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so raising around, and we are, a pre-seed round, and we are using one of our partner called WeFunder to do so. And and I'll give you a bit of story. When the reason we're using that method, one of the method that we're using, but specifically this one, right? It's we want the community to be involved in what we're doing, right? It's a community based solution. Community plays an important role in our solution, but also we're thinking about even if you don't think about technology, right? If you're sick, if you're in your community, right? Somebody you rely on your neighbors, right? You rely on some of, organization within your neighborhood, right? For support, right? It may not just be for clinical support, maybe for other needs that you may have, right? So because of that, we want also the community to help to be part of the organization, right? To be part and part of our raise and part of the community of investors that are coming through WeFunder will be choosing 2 advisors out of that community pool, right? To as part of our board to help us, continue,
Nice.
guide us through the journey. So it's not just, hey, some engineers, some physician, big organization that's coming together and
So
mold.
somebody on this call can be has the opportunity possibly.
Oh, yes, the opportunity. No, exactly. So after we close the round, what we'll be doing is we'll be sending out a 2-question survey to everybody we've invested. And the question, 2 simple questions is, are you interested being an advisor? And why would you want to be an advisor, right? What do you bring as an advisor to the company, right? We want active advisors, not just figureheads, right?
Right.
So if you have a passion for something, if you're passionate in that solution, and you say, oh my God, I have my point of view, and this is an opportunity to have your voice heard, even if you're coming in, right, and coming in as a minimum investment. I'll share with you a little bit about the WeFunder. I'll do a screen share quickly, and we can always go back. I think Yvette will probably share with the audience as well to the link. Let me do a quick screen share if you allow me. A second here. I'm in so many platforms. Where is that? There we go. Oh, I don't know if you can see what I'm seeing. It's probably similar.
You see it. Okay.
Let me minimize this. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Right. So cool. So Yvette, once you get a chance to send the link, so what you'll see here, we're partnering with WeFunder to help us raise this round, right? And I'll walk you through I'll walk you through not everything, but I'll give you kind of a lay of the land as you have a chance to explore what's on the platform, right? So you'll see right off the bat a pitch video. So it's me and Saurabh talking about the company. We also had an opportunity to have another investor interview us. So you'll see that in the investor panel. And this is what we've raised so far from 81 investor. This is where you'll put in the investment amount, a minimum investment of $250, and you'll see what you see here are the different perks and that comes with your investment. So now, to be clear, some folks have asked me this before. It's like, oh, if I invest $250, is it a T-shirt that I'm getting for $250? No. You're buying equity. You're buying future equity within the company, right? This is an extra. So we'll send you a Evva T-shirt as a thank you. But your investment, it is an equity investment, and it's not a donation, right? So you see the different tier there, and what are the extra perks. More importantly, what you'll see too as you navigate through this, you'll see if you go to overview, you'll see highlights of the company or of the mission, our team who's behind us, the pitch deck, right? So it's an investor deck. So it talks about the problem, our solution, how we go about solving the problem, and also our business model, how are we trying to make money, the market size, which is big, and for healthcare, it's not surprising. This is B for billion. Revenue projection. Oops, sorry. The mouse. And then other information. What are we doing with the money, right? And our personal stories. Like I said, we're also caregivers, right? We've been caregivers for loved ones. And then if you're curious about, hey, you know, I wonder what other people, these 81 investors, right? What people are saying, right? So you get a chance to read what folks who have invested. So Sela is one of our lead investor. You know, she invested $10,000. What she's saying about it, and other folks. So there are plenty here to read, and also an opportunity. More importantly, an opportunity to ask questions. Right. So you can go there, and if you're going through this, and if you have any questions, you can, and you feel like, hey, you know, this is a question I feel like should be asked and seen by everybody. Right. This is an opportunity for you to ask the question there. Or I think at the end, we'll share my email address as well. So if you have any question and you want to, you know, send me a note personally and say, hey, you know, I have a question, or like, you know, what's, you know, I'm more than happy to answer. But again, this is right here too. There's a mechanism for you to ask questions and for the team, for our team to answer those questions. I'll stop.
Okay.
I'll stop sharing there. And I know you have no question.
Well, and I know we have some questions in the channel. Darnell has a question in, so I want to, but I want to ask something really quickly while we're on here.
Sure.
You don't have to go back to your screen, but you know, when we're talking about investing in tech, and you know, looking at a startup right now, so people are investing currently right now in Evva Health. What does that look like as somebody who's a new investor? Maybe I don't know a lot about investing in tech startups. You know, I see.
That's a great question. I think I'm reading your mind.
Okay, yeah, because I'm trying. I want to dumb it down. So, because we had this, you know, we've talked a lot. We, you know, one of the things we wanted to make sure we do too is make sure it's very digestible for the common man or common woman to understand what that looks like investing in a tech startup.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start with the difference between a startup and a small business, right? A small business is trying to address a need at locally, right? And whether they expand to the next neighborhood or they expand the business within the states, they're not looking to grow fast, right? They're not looking to impact or change the market that they're in, right? It's really to address kind of a local need. A startup is looking to disrupt the market, right? It's looking to grow and to grow fast, right? And as you're thinking about that difference, and that's what, you know, with startups, you have, you know, you're raising money, right? You need to raise money to be able to grow fast. So now, you know, everybody is going towards, every startup is trying to grow fast, and to ultimately have an exit, right? Which is a lot of time, an exit is an IPO, right? Have that initial offering, right? Public offering. So we are all accustomed to IPO, right? We know the stock market, right? You buy shares on the stock market. Whether it's, you know, your 401k, whether it's, using Vanguard, using Charles Schwab and things like that, you know, we all have experience or know about the stock market, right? So that's the IPO world. As a startup, we're not there, right? And no one is a startup, you know, gonna be an IPO, be in the public market too. You've gone that stage. That stage. So now let's go pre-IPO. Now, if we're thinking about pre-IPO, there are a lot of things happening, and bear with me as I go to some of the details, right? You go from idea stage to pre-seed to seed, then you go Series A, Series B, C, and D, and sometimes F, right? To get to the IPO. Series A, let's cut it again in half, right? Talk about Series A to Series F. These are when you're at that stage, you're raising, doing multi-million-dollar raise, right? So you're looking at $15 million at Series A to probably, $300 million to $500 million, right? At Series F, right? At IPO, you're raising around, now you're selling your stock and public stock, so it's even more, right? So in those stages, that world, that section is really controlled, or is the land of VCs, right? Is the land those groups that are, writing big checks, right? Writing, $2 million checks, together. They're coming in and say, hey, you need 50 million. Here we go, right? I have a friend of mine, his company is in the Series B stage, right? They just closed around last year. Their Series B, they are raising, they raised 40 million, right? So this is private investor. It's very hard for a private investor and risky for a private investor to say, okay, I'm gonna, by myself, I'm gonna write a $10 million check for this company. So it happens, right? But it's not often. Now let's go to the last piece where Evva is in, right? So we're talking about ideas, pre-seed, and we are pre-seed, and then seed stage. This is the realm of angel investors and some pre-seed VCs that, the checks are smaller, but when, and I'm going to come back to crowdfunding and WeFunder, right? Because before 2016, before the Jobs Act, only accredited investor could invest in companies, right? I could only reach accredited investor. By accredited, what I mean is you had to make at least $200,000 in revenue as a single individual, or have a net worth, or have worth of $1 million, but you need to make at least $200,000 as a person. As a married couple, I think it was like 300,000.
Right. So that lets a lot of people out.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so as a startup, the minimum checks that you accept as an investment, it's like $25,000. That would be the minimum, right? And because you're looking for a accredited investor, you're trying to put too many people on your cap table, which is a table that has the list of investors in your company, right? So you're trying to limit that. With 2016, with Jobs Act under Obama, open up to non-accredited investors, to folks that cannot afford to write a $25,000 check, but they can afford to write $250, $500, $1,000, $10,000, right? And WeFunder, was created because of that new opportunity, and so we're using this to really open it up to diverse community, and including our community here, right? The Haitian community, the friends of Haitians as well.
Yeah.
To be part of this market, which historically has been restricted to the folks that have a lot of money.
Right. Yeah, and this is what's exciting for me, and that's why I was excited when we for the opportunity to share this with everybody, because again, like you mentioned, a couple of years ago, this was not available to the average person, and so people were those people who were privileged enough to have that, or lucky enough to have that kind of capital, were able to kind of just continue growing their wealth, while the average person was still working very, very hard trying to build their long-term wealth. And so it's super exciting what you're doing, because it's given now the community to now, and that's why I say when we invest in our own, we have somebody like you that we can invest in that's actually doing this kind of work on this level, and that we can really take something like $250 and just get started for some a long-term investment that we want to make. So
and I'll say one more thing too before we jump to some of the questions that we have in the chat. It's really, when we're thinking about investors that are coming now, that are coming, the pre-seed and seed stage, and as the company grow, that investment that you put in get multiplied very quickly, right? So by Series A, you can see your Series A, which is happens, and we're working towards making it happening in about 18 to 24 months. Again, it's about being quick, right? So it's not like, oh yeah, we're going to spend 5 years to do so. We cannot afford to spend 5 years to do so, right? So the growth, and there will be other ways too, but the growth is fast and the potential of your money to multiply as kind of a return on investment, or another typical investment that we commonly hear, right? We're like, oh, invest in real estate. You get, typical, no, I'm not talking about commercial real estate. I'm talking about, buying a home, flipping a home, right?
Right.
Probably thinking about, hey, you get 15%, you get 20%, you get 25% return, and it's like, oh my God, this is great. And I've done that too, right?
Yeah.
But in the startup, in the tech startup, you're talking in multiple, you're not talking percentage. You're talking about 2x, 3x, 5x. And folks that have invested in Uber, right? When Uber was a pre-seed stage, right? Their investment probably, multiplied over 100 times, right? So we're not talking about, 20% or 100% return. We're talking about like over 1,000% or 10,000% return. That's what we reach IPO, right? We're working.
Right. Yeah. So I was dropping some stuff in the chat, and I saw Anna Maria drop some stuff because I'm big on education. So I'm trying to make sure everybody catches some of these things. But super excited, man. I'm going to turn it over to Yvette because I know time is ticking, and some people have some questions. Yvette, there are some questions in the chat. Let's go ahead and I have some questions too, but I'm going to stop being greedy and let other people ask. So let's go ahead and go to the chat and get some of these questions. Yvette, what were some of the questions? I think I might have missed them that were coming up earlier. And so let me see. I think the first question I saw was from Darnell. And Darnell, he was asking, what are some companies that are leading the way in remote patient tech? Are there any companies on the horizon that are bringing new tech?
Well, we are bringing new tech, right? So you can check that box. So Evva is bringing new tech as well, right? There are a lot of different companies. We spend a lot of time doing kind of the market analysis as well to understand the competition. And there's a lot of folks that are under the radar too. You don't know what they're doing, right? To Evva, our followers, a few people, this community knows about Evva, but we have not blasted it to everywhere, right? To folks. And what we're doing is pretty much on, under wraps, right? So we know what we're building, but we're not sharing. We're sharing the world. There are different companies that are doing a bit of different things within the aging space, right? Some of it's around caregiver tool, other ones, it's like, let's say, remote patient monitoring type. Someone is around devices, right? So there are a few of them there. And I have a slide in that deck that shows some of the competition. So Danielle, if you can, when you get a chance, explore that slide. It has, a lot of information, a lot of competitors. But what those competitors don't do, right, is really, connecting the dots for the family. Because even if you have these solution, you still as a family have to go, okay, let me check my glucometer app, right? Let me go on the patient portal to find something. Let me go somewhere else, but let me go Facebook now to talk to some of my folks in my community. Right. So Evva, it's about bringing all of this for you together. And we're not aggregating just information. We're doing a Google search that you can do, right? We are understanding what's happening with the family, with your loved one, and bringing you the right information and the right support that you need in that time, and also information and also support that you need as you're planning for the future.
Awesome. Actually, so Darnell responded. He said he was replying to his question. He says after listening further, he thinks Evva sounds like a great company on the horizon. So
thank you.
Good stuff.
There are a few more questions. Edlin stated, you mentioned that this is for the aging population. Is 60 years old the cutoff?
Oh, no. It's we're not putting a cutoff on this, right? It's because you have like in our case, as we're focusing on dementia for now, right? Obviously, we'll expand in the future, but
Yeah.
for now, you have early onset dementia. And folks that are 50 having dementia, and they call it early onset dementia. So there is not an age restriction that we put on it. But when we're looking at this condition, of course, related to, it's a condition of folks that tend to be older, right? And that's why we're focusing on that. So it could be 60 plus, it could be 55 plus, it could be 45 plus. And there are cases, I remember seeing reading about this young man, 45 years old, early onset dementia, and had to be admitted because he couldn't care for his young daughter, right? So he's there like drinking beer and can't stop drinking beer. I mean, it was just like this all the time. And the daughter will open the door, go outside. It will not even, that didn't even register, right? So he had a case of frontotemporal dementia, which is different than Alzheimer, which is more aggressive than Alzheimer. But whenever
what causes that?
Say what?
What causes the frontal dementia?
You said course?
Causes.
Oh, causes. Causes. Well, the cause of dementia, right? Dementia is kind of the symptom of cognitive disorder, right? And the jury.
I meant the frontal one. I never heard of that. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So when we think about dementia, right? Dementia is a symptom, a set of symptoms, right? But there are diseases that causes those symptoms, right? Alzheimer is a disease, right? Frontotemporal dementia is also a disease, right? That causes dementia. And the naming convention is not that. It seems like they were not engineers who were doing those names, because it gets confusing, because you're like frontotemporal dementia and you're thinking, okay, is that different from Alzheimer? Yes, it is. It's a different disease, attack different part of the brain. So we talk about frontal lobe. So your motor function gives out very, very, very quickly compared to Alzheimer. Can be a long journey for Alzheimer's. The frontotemporal dementia, it's quicker, it's more aggressive, and you lose your motor functions quicker.
Okay. Well, we have another question. Will the app also address mental health providers for this population?
Yes, when we talk about caregivers, right? Caregivers that are going through this themselves, suffer from depression as well, right? So part of our solution is, and we are actively, reaching out and partnering with neurologists, with mental health professionals to provide that support that's needed. And sometimes, and most of the time, it's not just, again, and we like to think about it as a true dyad, the patient and the family, because it's not just the patient that needs help, and sometimes, most of the time too, is also the family, caregivers that's taking care of that loved one day in and day out.
That was hold on, let me make sure.
There was a comment from Marie
okay,
Angela.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I went over all the questions before going over the comment from Marie Angela. Okay, no question here. Just wanted to thank Dr. Hanna for a great presentation. You pronounced that Eva? E-W-W-A? Okay.
Eva.
I think she meant Eva.
Eva. Okay, sorry. Is introducing a very innovative system in a market that hasn't really experienced much change in a long time. With many unmet needs that you guys are addressing, I'm sure this will be a game changer for many families.
Well, thank you for the kind words.
I agree.
Thank you for the kind words. And those are the things that keeps us motivated, right? So it's of course, any business, right? Any it's a journey, right? It's a journey, and it takes a village. It takes the village, coming together and supporting the best they can. And sometimes it's a word of encouragement, right? And sometimes it's providing their time. It's like, hey, I'd love to help you, and this is my experience. I'll share that with you. So there are many ways to help us on this journey. One of our way, of course, is would love for you to be an investor, right? To join us, to have a share, right, on the company, right, and help us define and let's innovate together, right, to really impact, right, the millions of families, not only in the U.S., right? We're looking about, but also around the globe that are struggling for this. So Eva has been also thinking about, outside the US, but for now, it's, Georgia. We already have our set on 4 other states that we will be monitoring quickly to go to market there as well. And like I said, with startups, you have to move fast, and that's the reason we're also raising, right, to be able to be in that position, to create that solution that's so much needed.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you for that, Carl. I mean, this is amazing. And I, just I'm making this apparent to everybody, right? Because this is one of the reasons why we're having this, because we not only want to educate everyone about, these kinds of opportunities, but make sure that you're taking advantage of them after you learn about it, right? Because, once you know better, you do better. And so now that we, and I'm pretty sure people have questions and other questions about, a little bit more about investing in tech startups, a little bit more about the healthcare industry, Carl. So I know I am becoming an investor myself. There we go, you have Yvette. And that's because I really believe in what we're doing. What you're doing, I should say, but I believe in what we're doing as a community to invest in our own, and it's something that's actually having an impact for everybody across the world. I mean, this is a game changer for a lot of people. If people want to reach out to you, Carl, have any more questions in terms about Evva Health and how they can get involved, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you or your team members?
Yeah, so one thing you can, follow us, we are on the social media, so follow us on LinkedIn. So we're there, and also, Facebook, we're also there as well. There's a way to ask me questions on the WeFunder platform. We're also happy to share my email with the team here, Carl at evva360.com. So EVVA360.com. So it's Carl. So C-A-R-L.
Let me drop that in the chat. Okay.
You got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and please feel free to reach out, right? Ask questions, right? And follow us if you say, hey, I'm not ready to invest, but I'd love to see, your evolution, right? Love to have you as a follower, and share your feedback with us too. So.
Absolutely. But I want to stress this because I know we just had this education. It hasn't been in depth, right, in terms of what that looks like when you're raising rounds and in terms of investing. So there still is a lot of, we still have to go a little bit deeper with that, but we're limited on time. However, there is, the urgency in the sense that the round will be closing eventually at some point. And so when you're talking about investing, that might change. That might look different a month, 2 months from now, right?
No, for sure. So right. So we're targeting to close this round in this coming month, right? The month of March, right? And we'll be close our raise and continue to building, right? Continue building. So we're not going to keep a round open forever, right? The next time we're raising a round, we'll be hopefully in the seed round, and our valuation will be much higher, right? Right now, if you go on the platform, you'll see a valuation cap of $8 million. In the seed round, it's going to be more than that. And what do I mean by valuation cap, right? With startup in the pre-seed and seed stage, you typically you don't go to a valuation exercise, right? Because it's expensive, and then you don't have the traditional metrics. You don't have the revenue. You don't have the expense is a bit different, right? So some of the key metrics that you use to do a valuation exercise, which we'll do at Series A, when you're doing that direct equity round, cannot be done. So what companies are doing, and not us, is just how the process the market is doing is establishing a valuation cap and saying, hey, I'm buying it now through a convertible note. So I'm not giving you like, oh, I'm not gonna give you equity right off the bat, But what's happening is, you're buying into the future value of the company. So you're saying, okay, the company at Series A is gonna be valued at 8 million, right? And I'm buying in. At Series A, most of the tech startups, right, are in the 40 million, plus valuation. Care, this is one who just closed their round, a $12 million round, a Series A in January, so last month, right? Their value is around 50 million post-money valuation. So after they raised their 12, I think initially they were at 45 million before they get the 12 million. So at 45 million, right? So let's say you buy in a company that's 8 million, and the company at Series A, right? Let's say we reach Series A and we are valued at 40 million. Your investment, your return, the value of the share that you have accumulated, right, will be 5 times your investment. So if you put in $1,000, you're looking at $5,000, right? And this is more or less the average value of health tech company, right? Health tech is super hot, right? That's the value you have at Series A, right? So even if you say, well, it's like, well, we didn't make it to 40 million, right? We did 24 million, right? That's still 3 times the value of your investment that you're doing now, right? So like I said, sometimes you hear those numbers and you're like, is that possible? Yes, they are possible, right? But you only heard of typical and little investment that are giving you 15%, 20%, or sometimes 10%, and it's fine. But there's another side of there's another group that are accustomed to those returns. And you'll see, it's like, how does Elon Musk get all this money? Right? Right, and all
Good
of
question.
this,
I think everybody's trying to figure that out.
right? No, exactly. It's all. He's a smart guy. He has his flaws for sure, right? And from a personal standpoint, but and he has a successful exit with a few other companies before Tesla, right? But that's how that multiplier comes in, and very quickly you'll see folks that are 24 in Silicon Valley, 24 years old in Silicon Valley, and oh yeah, we just exited, and all of us have million in the bank now. It's like, what? You're 24. What happened? And I went to school and got my PhD, and fortunately I don't have that, but right. But it's a different world, right? And wanted to expose the community to this world, right? And please do your research, right? Please do your research. It's also a risky world, right? I don't want to just say, oh my God, it's gonna be, or for sure I'm gonna give you that return, right? If you invest, it's a risky business, right? High risk, high reward, right? But you have to, that's why we're open book on the WeFunder. We have a lot of information. Please go through them, right? Ask questions, and more than happy. I want the community to be an informed investor, right? To understand the risk and also understand the upside, the potential of high return with their investment.
Awesome. Well, Carl, thank you so much to you, your team at Evva Health for what you're doing. What you're doing is important. I think it's something that we as a community and as a people really should be involved in, right? And like you said, we want to do our own research, make informed decisions about what we're getting into. But I'm on board. And I want to encourage you to continue doing what you're doing, you and the team, because you all are up to something that is for the good of all. And I think that, Elon Musk says this as well. So since you were talking about that, but just to piggyback on that, if a company is important enough, he thinks they should be built, and regardless of what the risk is and how dangerous it might be. But it's because there's a good that's coming out of it for everybody. So I want to thank you again for taking the time. I know you're super busy to share this opportunity with everybody, to educate us about investing in tech startups. Of course, there's a lot more that has to go into this as well, but I think this is a really good start and a good opportunity even for us to jump into. And I want to thank everybody who jumped on this call and that's watching on Facebook out there and that will rewatch this video, because this is what we want. We want to have these conversations. We want people to be well informed about these things and also have the opportunity to ask questions and be able to touch Carl kind of virtually and, have the opportunity to speak with you one-on-one, or at least send questions and get you to answer them. So what would you want everybody to take away from this call today before we drop off?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I mentioned, I think do your due diligence, right? As any investor, do your diligence. But I think I just, for some of you, right, I may have just exposed you to another reality, right? That's worth exploring more. And so, Evva is we're working hard to make a difference, to really impact, millions of families. And we're talking with them on a daily basis, folks that can't wait to have our solution. Investors actually in a current raise, right, that are looking to use this. And one of them, she's caring for a 94-year-old mother, right? And also, of course, has her own children that she's caring for and is looking for that solution. And it's like, I'll be an investor as well. So she's one of the investors, and we have quite a few that are that's going to be not only investors in Evva but also users of Evva, right? So again, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Ronald and Yvette, for this opportunity to share, and I'm sure we'll see each other very soon in other events. And feel free, everybody, feel free to send me a note, email, and happy to always have a conversation.
Awesome. Thank you all. Make sure you take the opportunity to follow Evva Health on Facebook, Instagram, right? Or just LinkedIn. Facebook and LinkedIn. Okay. Yeah. All right. So just Facebook and LinkedIn. I don't want to get you all on Instagram.
We'll get there. I think we don't have a, well, yeah, we'll get there.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So Facebook and LinkedIn. Same for the chamber. You can follow us on Facebook at GAHCCI and on Instagram as well at Your Haitian Chamber. And LinkedIn as well. And if you have any other questions, I think I saw some other questions popping up on Facebook. So we'll send them over to you and redirect them to make sure that they get in touch with you so we can continue supporting what you have going on, Carl.
All right.
So thank you again, man. We'll catch up again some other time soon, actually, and so I can bother you a bit more about these investments that we're making.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Until next time.